Hi, this is the voice of Heidie Calero with a story behind 6 quarterly indices that Calero Consulting Group, my firm, has produced and used to be published under another service we had, which was Puerto Rico Economic Compass. Well, today we have run those numbers again, and we are publishing again for your benefit this 6 quarterly indices for the first quarter of 2022, and the idea is to provide you like a panoramic view 20,000 feet above ground as to where is the economy. Are we really making headways, or on the contrary, we are facing strong winds in the negative direction? Let's start with our first index, which is the Coincident Index, and that combines be it consumption, be it tourism, be it services, jobs, payroll. It's really what the name says, Coincident Index. And the first quarter, as you see here, of 2022, it's in positive territory, 5% compared with the same quarter in 2021. And this graph depicts for each of these quarters, even though we are just highlighting first quarter of since 2019 through first quarter of 2022, we have all the quarters there, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, all of them for the year, calendar years 2019 through the first quarter of 2022. So it's been up and down. Notice that upscale in 2021 when this Coincident Index just went up the roof. Again, remember, we were comparing it with Q1 2020, which was the start of the pandemic when the economy was shut down. So I say it's going to be temporary recovery, could be like a mirage, because right now what we are in the second quarter of 2022, we have skyrocketing oil prices, driving through those prices that are changing as we speak. And then we have the increases in utilities, be it water, electricity. We have the toll gates. We have many increases that Puerto Rico is experiencing. And of course, salaries are not keeping up to date. Let's look at the second index, which is the consumption index. And here, the story is one of a cautious consumer. The index tells us that it's in positive territory with 4.3%. Remember that we have received money from the unemployment benefits because of the CARES Act. We also received another rescue packages because of COVID-19. We are also receiving some benefits, yes, from Hurricane Maria. Still, the rescue funds from that hurricane are trickling down still. And so our consumer is really, even though there is a lot of pent-up demand after almost 2 years of a shutdown in our economy, now with this increase in prices, which now for in terms of March 2022, the Department of Labor says that in Puerto Rico it was like 5.1%, in April, in February it was 4.5%, and in the US it's 8.5% again in March of 2022. So these prices are really already thinking that this could be a prelude with the interest rates going up, Federal Reserve trying to break this, put a halt in this inflation. It could really cause not a soft landing, but again, it could be a recession, economic recession in the States, and this really will impact again Puerto Rico. Let's look at the third quarterly index, and that's construction index. And you would think, well, all these monies that are coming from recovery, from FEMA, from the earthquake, well, we should be really having a lot in terms of projects that need rebuilding. Infrastructure and Build America has not yet trickled down to Puerto Rico because it has not been approved, but some of that will also benefit Puerto Rico if and when Congress decides to approve the plan that was submitted by President Biden. Well, problem here is one of supply of manpower, the skills that are needed for construction, and people who are not necessarily willing to come for the salaries that are being paid on an hourly basis in terms of construction. So what we are seeing is negative 3.4%. Again, not because there's a pent-up demand here in terms of projects for reconstruction, infrastructure, hotels, housing, lots of things that need to be rebuilt or reconstructed or even remodeled. And we are seeing that negative 3.4%. Notice what it was in the first quarter of 2019. That was 45.8%. Remember that horizontal line, the black line, is 0%. So anything above that line is in positive ground. Let's look at the manufacturing index, our next graph. And here, what we have entitled this graph is production is resilient. Manufacturing is in positive territory with 4.7% in Q1 of 2022. Notice what it was in Q1 of 2020. That was almost negative territory. It was 1.1% positive, and then it just went down in the second quarter of 2020, that big dip that you're seeing there. So manufacturing still resilient, still exporting, and we are just waiting with pins and needles on what's going to happen with Law 154 that the U.S. Treasury has already said that this is the tax that is charged, it's imputed and taxed on the foreign companies, multinational U.S. companies. And they are now taking a credit against their federal taxes. Well, the U.S. Treasury has said as of January of 2023, no more credit. And we have the GILTI tax and this worldwide tax, which is really, we need to focus on what will Puerto Rico do. Is it renegotiating with these companies that represent almost $2 billion in taxes for the government of Puerto Rico? But so far, manufacturing production is continuing. The next graph is the banking index. And here we've seen really very good years for the banks. They are very well capitalized. They have received lots of deposits, and they have just really focused more on consumer loans, automobile loans, and not many in terms of commercial and industrial. So you're seeing there sort of a deceleration, not because they don't have the deposits or the willingness to do loans, but because it requires a lot more in terms of defining the feasibility of the projects that are submitted before the consideration of the bank. So we are seeing this coupling and decoupling in the last few quarters. And finally, the last index is the leading index. This tells you what the economy could look like, the Puerto Rico economy in the next quarter, the next 3 to 4 months. And yes, it's somber clouds ahead. As we are recording this economic capsule, we are seeing prices just skyrocketing. Price of oil out of bounds. The Russia-Ukraine conflict is really changing geopolitical order. What's happening with China? What's happening with in terms of the U.S.? Many things happening. And out of these crises, we really need to learn that Puerto Rico is an island. It's a very open economy, but it still needs to make the case as to what is it that we want to do. How can we, if not insulate completely, we need to cushion ourselves in terms of what these emergencies really imply. So our leading index already foretells that it's going to be negative 1.6% in the next quarters. In fact, the Puerto Rico Planning Board has revised its forecast for 2022 in terms of real growth. It used to project that it was going to be 2.1%. Now, if the price of oil goes up by $40 more than it has been going up, then that's going to spin us into zero growth. And for 2023, should that continue, fiscal year, which runs from July 1st of 2022 through June 30th of 2023, we could be in negative territory again, 0.3% negative real growth. So overall, the story behind these indices tells that the economy of Puerto Rico is again in this tightrope of what it will do in terms of economic growth. We are seeing really tightening conditions, and Puerto Rico needs to focus on this budget. I mean, the Secretary of Treasury says it has so much money. Well, we really need to focus on what is the best use of those monies? How are we going to cater to these essential services? And above all, how are we going to really forecast economic growth? Don't forget, those of you who like our economic capsules, to give us a like in the voice of Heidie Calero. And don't forget, the economy is all of us. Thank you.